Olin, you beautiful man, you've done it again. You've delivered us a fantastic episode. I am so freaking excited about this episode. Hey guys, welcome to TERA CON Prime Time. I am your host, Jeremy.
And I am your co-host, Josh.
And we just saw a fantastic, one-of-a-kind, never seen before, NFT, just kidding, episode of Final Space, Season 3, Episode 5. What was it called again? One of Us or something like that?
It was called All the Moments Lost.
All the Moments Lost, that's right. And right off the bat, cookie score, what are you giving it, Josh?
Ooh, I feel like I'm super liberal with my cookie distributions here. I'd give this one a 9. I liked the whole idea of we're back to this one big event, the event literally being the black hole, and having all our characters react to it in different ways, where you have Quinn, who's flashing back to memories of her sister, and then you have the Catos and Biscuit trying to fix everything, and Gary's just trying to keep it all together for the sake of Quinn and kind of ground her in reality. But at the same time, I feel like Quinn's sister is kind of a jerk. Kind of overall, it was nice on paper it seems nice. We're getting all of these backstories. We're getting how everybody's reacting to this black hole and how it weighs on everyone. But I still am kind of on the fence about Quinn's backstory as a whole.
See, I am also going to give it a 9 out of 10 cookies, and we'll just kind of launch right into it this time, because guess what?
What?
I actually took notes this time around.
Whoa!
I could actually talk about what I thought during the episode. Not that I couldn't before, but this time I actually have like a mental track of what we are talking about. So we'll kind of hit all of those points that you just talked about. First thing I want to talk about, though, is, okay, so yeah, we are kind of back in that episodic nature, as it were, from the first season. You know, like this episode is a standalone sort of time capsule, as it were, of we need to deal with this one thing this episode and not multiple things. So the big thing that they're dealing with is that black hole. Gary and the team squad are trying to escape from the Lord Commander, who's heavily damaged their ship. They decide to blindfolding, as it were.
Blindfolding?
Yeah, shout out to Mord in our Discord for coming up with that one. I'm not going to take credit for that joke. They were blindfolding in space.
I love that term.
This finally seems to be the episode that I've been waiting for this season. Like we've kind of been talking about in earlier episodes, this really feels like a showcasing of everybody's talents on the show, from animation, music, directing, writing, voice acting. All of that is there this episode. And I really do want to start with music, because we're finally, I don't want to say finally getting, but like this episode, we get those synth blares, you know, of just like, wow, you know, like
The guitar riffs in the background.
yeah, exactly. Like super sci-fi sounding. Like I like that sort of sound, just the synth blares, as it were, because it, you know, it sounds like a siren. It sounds like a warning beacon, as it were. And, you know, that just gives this level of discomfort, as it were. And me with soundtrack scores and stuff like that, I really gravitate towards that. I really like uneasy sounding soundtracks, as it were, things that make you feel uncomfortable, because that really sort of heightens your emotions overall. If the music can make you feel one way, and on top of that, what you're seeing or hearing from the show in terms of dialogue or story or anything like that adds to that, you know, they complement each other, I think that just heightens the overall tension of the show, the storytelling. And so these synthetic blares and the whole idea of being sucked into a black hole, brilliant. 10 out of 10 in that regard. Really loved that. later in the episode, uneasy synth, uneasy strings, just this sort of pulsating sort of sound to it. Again, really vibes with me. Props to our composers this season. You're really bringing it, really showcasing it this episode. This is one of those moments where I want the full soundtrack now because of those little moments like that, those little synth scores, those little, string, sort of sounds, as it were. I don't remember if I really heard anything like this in the previous 2 seasons. This episode is finally sticking out to me because of the soundtrack, because of the score.
You're right. Yeah, I don't remember hearing when it went full on synth and guitars like that. I think it was all like high stakes instrumentals and then quiet piano for the somber moments. And of course Shelby Mary songs for the rest.
Yeah, and like there wasn't necessarily anything wrong with previous season scores or anything like that, but this is the first time I actually feel drawn to the score, as it were. Like when I'm typically watching movies, and sometimes I guess TV shows too, but there are very specific movies that I can remember because of the score and how it made me feel. Like Blade Runner 2049, Dunkirk, Alien Covenant. There are very specific moments in those soundtracks where I remember thinking, I need to listen to this one again because it was so good. Oh, that was the one thing too, with that first sort of intro scene, as it were. Really hated how much it just almost sort of immediately cut off into the intro. I wanted that first moment, because of those synth blares, to just live a couple of seconds longer and then go into the intro, because otherwise it was like, blah, blah, intro, 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 intro. And it's like, no, let it live there for just a little more. And like, I get it. Like there's, only so much you can show over the episode. So if you added, those 3 seconds there, as it were, you have to take 3 seconds out from some other place in the episode. So I will forgive this. I do wish there was kind of like an extended cut or a director's cut, as it were. Where's the Snyder cut of Final Space?
Oh, God. Unleash the Rogers cut.
Yes, absolutely. Sort of enough about the music, because otherwise I could keep going on about that. Really improved this episode. Love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. Yeah, on the theme of survival, we have a couple different survival sort of, not necessarily themes. The team is trying to steer clear of Invictus and the Lord Commander, and Ash is understandably upset. They left her brother behind, Fox, and Quinn makes a good point of like, if we don't escape right now, we won't be alive to go rescue Fox. Like, this is a necessary step in our survival so that we can hopefully reassure Fox's survival.
We can't help other people if we're dead, so.
Exactly. And like, it's kind of, this selfish moment between Ash, who can only think of, I need to go rescue Fox, and everyone else saying, we need to survive so that we can save Fox. Like you can't just go immediately charging back into danger if you're not ready to face that danger, because otherwise you run the risk of dying. And then sort of flip-sided onto that, we have this whole, like you mentioned earlier, we have this whole Quinn backstory. This is the Quinn backstory moment that we've all been waiting for, and incredibly hot take right now. I did not care for it.
She did spend the whole time yelling, Avery, wait! And that was like 90% of it.
So I had a couple issues. Did I want cringe
backstory?
Yeah, did I want cringe backstory? No, it was just this was interesting because I'm very mixed feelings about it. Like you said, it was basically just, because of the effects of the black hole, Quinn is sort of exponentially succumbing to her final space poisoning, as it were. The gravitational pull is, somehow really affecting her and the rest of the team squad for that matter, but especially her. So she's having these hallucinations of her sister, Avery. But the entire time she's having these flashbacks, it's just Quinn going, Avery, wait. And Avery being a little jerk face and just sort of running away, as it were, and trying to outdo her sister. And, I don't inherently believe this other sort of backstory of meeting Quinn's mom and, just telling her kid to toughen up, these lives matter. I make this decision, all these broken families.
And you will too.
Yeah, exactly. And then so I don't get that, because you have that moment, and then in another flashback, you have Quinn and Avery in the middle of a battlefield, and that's kind of just not even addressed, besides, like I said, Quinn going, Avery, no, and Avery going, Avery, yes. It didn't feel like, I don't know what this added to Quinn's backstory besides she had a mom and a sister. In the grand scheme of things, from what we've seen of her in season 1, tough, badass woman who is going to do her own thing within the Infinity Guard because her superiors won't act. So she's going to act herself. And then contrasted with this backstory is her just being scared of losing her sister, as it were. I'm just confused by it.
I don't understand how Avery didn't get in trouble. What the heck?
Very good point.
Girl almost drowns, and apparently it's Quinn's fault because she was trying to one-up you, so it's your responsibility. You held her life in your hands.
Very good point. And is it entirely clear if Avery is the younger sister or older sister?
So I actually turned on captions for this, and when Avery was saying, big sister or something, there were quotes around it. So I don't know if she was being sarcastic, where Quinn is actually the younger sister, or if she was being sincere and Quinn's actually older than her.
Well, Quinn looks smaller either way.
Yeah, Quinn looks smaller than her.
So maybe that was sort of the jab, as it were, I'm your younger sister, but I'm taller than you sort of thing. So big sister.
True. That, and Quinn also has, that position of, what is it? Is she the captain or commander or something? Whatever, she was ranked higher than her sister in that war flashback.
And so, yeah, getting into that, while I don't care for the narrative story of what's going on in the flashbacks, I do like the story in the present of her having these hallucinations, wandering around the ship, sort of becoming lost in this fantasy world and not realizing that she's putting herself in danger. That I do like. I did like that about the episode, because you have, like you kind of said earlier, Gary's kind of being this, corral master, as it were, of just being like, okay, the Catos are over here with Kevin and Biscuit. Mom is steering. I have to go get Quinn, but Ash is over here as well. Oh no, somebody's distracting me. I need to leave Quinn. And then suddenly Quinn is about to jump off the edge of the ship into a black hole. And this is where, and that's what I'm saying is that I did like. We keep talking about consequences, real life consequences in this show. And that was, I think, our best example right now in the season, maybe, of the consequences of Quinn being poisoned and suffering from these hallucinations. She didn't realize she was throwing herself off the ship until it was too late, all of these, sort of other stories you hear about that, of kind of the exact same thing of people accidentally walking off the side of a building and then Superman comes and saves them and that sort of thing. So we have that moment. Again, sort of the parallel within the episode itself, how Quinn earlier was saying we need to survive in order to save Fox. Now we have Gary saying, Quinn, I need you to live so you can tell me about Avery, because if you don't live right now, I won't know about Avery, and your memory of Avery dies with you. So the memory of Avery will die with you, and now nobody will know about Avery. So again, I think very Very strong narrative point.
This is going to sound stupid, but I thought of... It gave me vibes from Coco, the Pixar movie.
Haven't seen it, but continue.
Because the entire thing is literally about how you can only exist in the happy afterlife if you're remembered by somebody who's alive. And if anybody who remembered you is dead or you don't pass on that story, you essentially disappear from the afterlife.
Yeah, I could see that, being reflected in this episode as well. And again, I think these two parallel sort of stories, vignettes as it were, maybe, I don't know, but these two sort of plot points as it were, I think they're both very strong. So like I said, didn't necessarily care for the backstory. It didn't really feel believable, but the real world consequences of Quinn throwing herself off the ship into the black hole, really good. And then we have Ash saving her. Somehow through strong emotional duress, she's able to repair her fingers and use her powers to her fullest, get Quinn back on the ship, but then she decides to confront Invictus all alone and go right into the black hole.
Yeah, I love that idea. There it is. That's the second story in there. Because she's been struggling to keep Invictus out of her head for, the duration of the episode. And then she finally just gets called in by Gary to help out with Quinn. And then she decides, you know what? I'm going to go face this cosmic demon by myself. This should be fine.
Between Fox and Ash, I like Ash more than I do Fox. So Fox being left behind, great, whatever. I could do without him, no problems asked. This Ash story, though, I'm a little more drawn into. Something about her seems a lot more believable as a character. There seems to be a lot more of an investment in her character. So I am curious to see what happens in the next episode regarding her taking on Invictus one-on-one.
It was kind of cool how we focused on the people on the ship this episode, so we didn't focus on Bolo fighting Titans. We didn't focus on Tribor or Quattro, who are off doing their own thing. Everybody just on the Dragonhawk 5.
I really like this episode for a lot of things. Getting back inside the ship, we had the team squad pulled out of, the light fold, as it were, from Invictus's gravitational pull. So the ship is damaged and they need to escape now a black hole. So the Catos and Kevin and Biscuit are tasked with restoring the ship's power, as it were, so that they can escape. And oh boy, now Biscuit finally has a purpose besides being the comedic relief. He's finally like,
I was a mechanic intern under Kevin Van Newton for 30 years. I can take care of this. I built this ship.
And so it's like, all right, cool. We found the purpose for Biscuit within episode 5. He can actually fix the ship that he's been tasked to build in the first place.
Or, he knows how to fix the ship and delegate tasks to other people.
Yeah, and he's not just there to make pervy comments towards the crew. So, great, we have a purpose for him. So, yeah, we get the whole punchline of everyone suffering from the gravitational effects of the black hole, and Kevin's just being this sort of not prone to the gravitational pull. He can still fly around and, be funny ha-has.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting how he wasn't affected, but Mooncake was, and you see Mooncake rolling around on the floor.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think it was just for the punchline of, once the Catos and Biscuit get to the reactor or whatever, we have Biscuit turn down the artificial gravity, as it were. So now everyone can walk normally, and Kevin's, unaffected by artificial gravity or even real gravity at this point, because then we go outside the ship and Kevin's just flying around in the middle of a black hole. It's like, okay, well, this robot defies the laws of physics. This robot is a god. This robot apparently is a Titan that can just defy the laws of physics.
Oh man, if Kevin is a Titan.
I don't even want to think about that. I do want to think about the spaghettification of the Catos, though, because that was a weird scene, but at least scientifically accurate.
I am making spaghetti for lunch just because of the whole spaghettification thing last night. It just made me think of noodles.
Oh, gosh. I mean, hey, you do you. If watching the Catos go LongCatos, makes you want spaghetti, then, I mean, by all means, sir, go make some spaghetti and nope, I'm not even going to put that in the episode. For whatever reason, Olin or whoever wrote this episode decided, you know what, make this episode a little more spicier? Body horror. And having Avocado's eye socket pop out.
It's a ball on a string.
You can just touch it. You can just touch the eyeball.
Well, I mean, props to the writers or whatever, because completely unexpected, to be fair, which is why I think it really makes it a standout moment in the show, because, I mean, I guess body horror wasn't out of the question come season 1 when Gary's arm gets ripped off. But this one was a little, again, I guess just unexpected, because we have, Kevin stepping in and little Connor just going, no, you're going to mess it up. Stop touching my dad's eyeball. Like,
You're tangling it. Oh, that was great.
that was really good. Oh, yeah. And then speaking of little Kato, when Ash, flies off and, obviously the team squad has to, again, fend for themselves and leave Ash behind. Little Kato's little moment of, we can't keep leaving people behind. Like, great, strong delivery of that line. I was just like, yeah, okay, yeah.
Can I just, everybody's voices were on point for this episode. Like, the strain in Gary's when he's trying to, reach out to Quinn. And Quinn's absolute heartbreak when she's, trying to reach out for someone who isn't there anymore. I want to ask how Cody would feel when someone asks him, okay, so for this scene you're going to be grunting in pain because your eye has popped out of its socket. And Kevin's trying to push it back in.
Even that, my whole thing was, how did Olin make those mooncake hyperventilating noises?
Oh my god. Just panting into a microphone for 5 minutes just to get it right.
That's the question I want answered. Olin, please come back to the server. We miss you.
He needs to hear our collective screaming when it comes to episodes, because these are the freshest raw reactions here.
And then last sort of thing about the voices, which I wish they kept more in the episode. Even Hugh was being affected by the gravitational well, as it were, and his, AI voice starts sort of deteriorating and getting all warped and weird. And I know I talked about that in I think it was the first episode. Please get weird with it like that. I wish that just sort of effect lasted the rest of the episode until they actually escaped Invictus's black hole, as it were.
It just gets more and more distorted.
Yes, exactly. Just something about a rogue AI. I mean, even though he's not being rogue in the sense of, he's putting the team squad in danger or anything like that. He's not being a servant. He's being a master, as it were, going rogue like that. But just the glitchiness in his voice, I really, really, really loved it. It really caught my attention.
The audio distortion.
Yeah, it was just fun to listen to. I really wanted that to continue the rest of the episode. Even if it was just, because we had that one scene with it. It's Hugh, you're sounding really up. He just has to keep going with it. And then in the next scene, it's you have 3 minutes until the, black hole pulls us completely in. And it's just no.
That would have been great to just get him more and more distorted as time goes on.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I get it. Maybe that was supposed to be, because when that distortion happened, it was within the ship. And so then, since Hugh's always kind of been this disembodied narrator or character, as it were, I get it. Suddenly they're outside the ship, and we see the Catos and Kevin outside the ship. And so since they're outside the ship, now it's kind of Hugh's just a little moment to be the the off-screen narrator, as it were, and say 7 minutes left before we, cannot escape the effects of the black hole. So I get sort of taking off the effect, as it were. That being said, this whole sort of grounded in sci-fi realism, as it were, like I wish it still would have been distorted, because that still just sort of gives the effect of this black hole has consequences, as it were, like to suddenly be repaired, kind of, and back to normal, when literally just in the previous scene, he was not normal and he was being affected by it. Like the ship has not gone away from the effects of the black hole, so his voice should still be affected by it, because you've already proven to us that this would happen. So in that sense, it should keep happening, but it didn't. So that's kind of one of those little minor critiques that, I don't know if that was an unintentional just sort of thing within the show. Like they just didn't think to keep Hugh's voice going like that, or it was a network decision or a creative decision. I just think it would have been, for me, a little bit more enjoyable if they kept that distortion going. And then also, sort of speaking of, I get it, like Avocado and Little Cato are reunited. It's father-son bonding time no matter what happens. You're really going to tell me that this dad is going to be okay with his son going outside of a ship in the middle of a black hole? Like, you think it's going to be that safe to just say, like, yeah, son, come along with me. We're going to, traipse about on the edge of the ship in the middle of a black hole. I sure hope nothing goes wrong.
Couldn't he have just taken the indestructible robot and just boom? I guess not, because Kevin's prone to breaking things.
I don't know. I think that was just sort of like, if I were the parent in that situation, I would have said, no, you stay on the ship. I will do this. And, maybe that would have added something to the story or whatever. Like, this could be another moment when Avocado is now out of the picture again because he fell off the ship into a black hole. The only thing left is we kind of have that final moment of, everyone's back on the ship, sans Ash, and we have Quinn back against the wall, framed so that we can't see her head as she's taking off her helmet. And then we have the reveal. Gary finally sees that Quinn is poisoned. Just this moment of like, is anything wrong? And Gary just doesn't even address that. He just says, Hugh, get the medical bay ready. Like even just thinking about that, like right now, it just kind of gave me a little bit of chills. Like, just could not even imagine being in that sort of moment with anyone in my life, like not necessarily being in finals, like pretending I'm in final space or anything like that, but having a moment of, you can see this sort of physical damage to someone, or even, something you can't see, like maybe like cancer or whatever. And it's just like that person that you love saying, is anything wrong? And you just have to sort of either pretend it's not happening, not address it, or, just like know that you have to get this person help. Like a very sobering moment. And I think that just added to this whole sort of really just tense episode overall. And so, how we were talking about in previous episodes, the festering wound that is, Quinn's final space poisoning, we now have the payoff, as it were, or at least we're about to. The sort of reveal has been made. She is on the verge of being no more. And this has to be addressed immediately. And that's what is happening at the ending of this episode, of just get the med bay ready. And so I would imagine next episode is going to be focused on Quinn. We'll see what happens in the next episode. And then just sort of speaking of that, I really, really loved the fade out at the very end of the episode.
Man, her yellow eyes.
Quinn's glowing all sorts of yellow. The text starts to come on the screen, but everything else fades out besides Quinn's yellow poisoning glow. And only her face, the veins of her face and her eyes that are glowing are alone in the dark. Very spooky moment. Very unsettling moment. And I really enjoyed it. But also, just to kind of nitpick there a little bit. So I don't know if anyone else noticed this in the episode, but Quinn's body was making a noise. Or maybe that was just sort of like a little tone in the background to sort of, again, just sort of heighten the unease of the episode, as it were. But I would like to believe that because of the final space poisoning, Quinn's body is irradiating a noise. It just seems kind of weird to me. And it makes me laugh because, like, I am uncomfortable at what was just revealed. And so this little noise, it makes me believe that, if you're succumbing to final space poisoning, your body starts emitting a tone.
Yep. No, I just went back with it. I hear it. Yeah, it is. She's making a noise.
Yeah, like I said, just kind of final thoughts on the episode. Like I said, I think strong contender for number 9 out of 10 cookies this season. So far, favorite episode, that is for sure. I really enjoyed a lot of moments and story points and storytelling through the music, the animation, all of that. Really strong episode. Really strong contender. I mean, we still have another 8 episodes, but currently this is my favorite episode of the season, for sure.
Oh my God, we have 8 episodes.
What could happen, baby? Great episode, and I can't wait to watch more. Josh, do you have any final thoughts, as it were?
I think, very well put together. One of the top ones for this season, except for that Avery flashback content. But other than that, I really enjoyed how everyone had their chance to do something, except for Cheryl. I mean, Cheryl really didn't do much. It's like, Gary, I'm flying the ship. Gary, come here. Ash is having trouble. Also, I'm in this episode. Did you know that? But, I can't wait to see where we're going to go next, because they're still on the run. And I guess, are they going to have to go after Ash and Fox? Because they're out of the picture, but I guess now what? They're on the run. I guess we'll have to find out next week.
Once again, thank you for listening to another episode of TERA CON Prime Time. We will see you again in a future episode when we watch Season 3, Episode 6, Change is Gonna Come. Once again, my name was Jeremy.
My name is Josh.
And we'll see you on the other side.
Actually, no, we don't know what's the next episode called?
I just said it. Change is gonna come.
Oh, I thought you were like the other side, and I'm like, no, we already had that episode.
No, I literally just said Season 3, Episode 6, Change is gonna come. Did you not just hear me?
No, I was like zoned out.
Joshua. All right, guys, we'll see you in another episode. I gotta go straighten out Josh.
You gotta give me a little scrumble tumble.
See you guys.